Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing my April TBR. If you are new here, I always play a TBR game every month. I'll link a video down below where I explain all the rules of the game, but it isn't very complicated, so you can follow along quite easily. But first, let's recap February and March. I decided to play the game for 2 months last time because I was also reading for the bookshop prize, so I didn't want to put too many books on my TBR beside those. So let's just quickly go through the prompts and the books I read in February and March. So the first prompt was a library book, and I ended up reading Snow Dog Food by Claudio Morandini. For this one, the next prompt was a book written pre-1900s, and I picked Middlemarch, which I am still reading. I am reading a chapter a day in this, so if I keep that up I will finish this in April. I got a book from Oceania, and I picked Small Bodies of Water for this one, which I am also still reading, but will finish this by the end of the month. The next prompt was food, and for that I read Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I read Too Much Lip for the indigenous prompt. I listened to this on audiobook. One of the prompts was to read the shortest book on my TBR, and for that I picked Fair Play by Tove Janson, which I haven't read yet, but there is still time to maybe finish it this month, otherwise it will go back on my bookshelf. Another prompt I got was to read a book with a person on the cover, and for that I picked Sanda, which I didn't read. And the last prompt I got was the book with the longest title. So out of the 8 prompts I've read 4. I am in the middle of 2, and 2 of them I didn't read. I'm also participating in the TBR spin each month, and the prompts for those were in February to read the lowest rated book, and for that I read Was by Janson. And for March we had to swap out a book. We had to take out the longest book on the list, and for me that was This Must Be the Place by Megan O'Farrell, and I replaced it with The Street by Anne Petrie. And then the prompt was to read the book with the most beautiful cover, and I actually ended up reading The Street because I think this is a really amazing cover. So that was February and March. Let's now get into April. So the book club book we'll be reading in April is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Seven, and Karen of the Roving Reader also wanted to read this with me. So we will be discussing this book as well as we read along together, and then after that I'll be discussing this with a book club. So I'm hoping this will give me lots of food for thought. And then April is also Trans Girl April, which is a month-long reading event created by Kevi of Say Kevi and Willow of Books and Bow, where all month long you are encouraged to read books by trans women, trans men and non-binary authors. So I'm hoping to fit in some books for that as well. I think that's all. Let's get into the first roll. I finished at number 40 last time. So roll number 1 is 3. 1, 2, 3. Reread a fiction book. So the first roll was to reread a fiction book, and I picked East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Anna of Anna Wallace Johnson put this as her favorite book of 2022, and I commented on her video saying that I'd love to read that soon, and she said I should, because 2023 will be the year of EOE. And who am I to argue with Anna Wallace Johnson? Who am I? I read this for the first time almost exactly 5 years ago, in April 2018, and I really enjoyed it that time, but I think I'll get more out of it this time around, and I'm just really looking forward to doing like a slow read of this and really get into it. Roll number 2. 1. A memoir or biography. And roll number 2 was a memoir or biography. And for this I will be reading All I Am by Sam Bettens, which works perfectly for Trans Girl April because Sam Bettens is a trans man, and I believe he writes about his coming out as a trans man at a later point in life, and also as someone who, as a lead singer of a band, has been very much in the public eye. Roll number 3. 3. 1, 2, 3. Up next, fiction, which is a storygraph prompt. Prompt number 3 was Up Next Fiction. Up Next is a feature on Storygraph where you can add books you want to read next, but you can also ask the Storygraph for a suggestion, which is what I'll be using for this. So let's see what the Storygraph suggests I will read next. It picks from my general TBR pile, so not necessarily books I have on my physical TBR. Okay, the first book it suggests is The Women of Brewster Place. It says, need more of what you just read. We think you'll love this one. I just finished The Street by Anne Petrie, so I think that's why it suggests this one. So that's one option. Let's see. It suggests This Must Be the Place by Maggie O'Farrell because it's been on my TBR the longest. Not sure I will read this one next month because I've just read The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. For some reason I have it in my mind I shouldn't read a book by the same author so quickly after each other, even though I love The Marriage Portrait and this is on a completely different topic. That's just the way my mind works. What else? I have Black Lion. Not sure if I'm in the mood for that this month. There's Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb, because it says you are enjoying this series, how about picking it up where you left off? I read the previous book in this series probably about a year ago. I'm going through the realm of the Elderlings books at a very slow pace, reading about 1 or 2 books a year. They are real comfort reads for me, so this is always a good pick. And come to think of it, it sort of works for the Trans Girl April readathon as well, because there is a genderqueer character in this. I hope that isn't too big of a spoiler. Yeah. The books on there I am most interested right now is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb and The Women of Brewster Place by Gloria Naylor. So I'll read either one of those. Roll number 4 is 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, which is one of the special prompts, and this one is to finish all the books from a previous TBR first. Okay, so prompt number 4 was one of these special tiles, and that was to finish all the books from my previous TBR. And the books I haven't finished yet are Middlemarch, which I was going to finish anyway. The other one was Sanda, and I saw that there was an audiobook coming out of that at the beginning of April, so I think that would work perfectly for this book. And also Fair Play by Tove Janson, which is a tiny book, so shouldn't be too difficult to fit that in April as well. Roll number 5. It's 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A non-fiction book. Prompt number 5 was a non-fiction book, and I was hoping something like this would come up so I could fit in the transgender issue by Sean Fay. This was the one book I really wanted to read for Trans Girl April, for obvious reasons. Roll number 6 is 2. 1, 2, which is a book buying prompt. And that says the book concierge. Prompt number 6 was one of the book buying prompts, the book concierge. It is now better known as NPR's Books We Love. I'm not even sure what NPR stands for. I think it's National something radio. It's an American thing. I don't have a real connection to it, but I first heard about it when I think Karen of the Roving Reader and maybe also Heather of Soki Expat Book Nerd was talking about it. NPR releases a list of their favorite books every year, but rather than it just being a long list, they select their favorite titles, usually around 300 or 400 books, and you can select different filters for it. So there's things like eye-opening reads, family matters, historical fiction, non-fiction, rather long, rather short, staff picks, tales from around the world, all sorts of different filters, and you combine those filters as well. And what I thought I'd do is sort of look at the prompts for the reading challenges I'm doing this year and seeing if I can mix and match those to find some books to read. Roll number 7 is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means I finished another round. Roll number 7 had me finish the game, and to celebrate finishing the game I always send out a postcard. It might take me a while. I only just sent out a postcard for the last time I finished the game, but I will eventually. So if you are interested in receiving a postcard from me, leave a comment and I'll pick one person to send out a postcard soon-ish. Start back at the beginning for roll number 8, which is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is another of these special prompts, and that means I can't buy any books. I have to use the library for the book buying prompts. Prompt number 8 was one of the special tiles again, and this is a prompt where instead of buying any new books this month, I will use the library instead, which actually works out perfect because I went a little bit overboard with book buying in March because it was Dutch Book Week. You could see all the books I bought in my last video. Roll number 9 is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A book from South America. Prompt number 9 is to read a book from South America. And I picked Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis, and I'm not sure if she was born in Uruguay or whether she has roots there, but the book is also set in Uruguay, so this is a real mashed potato book for me. If you are familiar with the Books Unbound podcast, then you will know what that means. So I am very excited to finally read this book. And the final roll, roll number 10, is 1, and that is a book with LGBTQ representation. And then the last prompt was to read a book with LGBTQIA+ representation. So I obviously picked another book for Transco April, and that is Genderqueer by Maia Kobabe. This is a graphic memoir about the author's discovery that she is non-binary and asexual, and her experience of that. So here we have it by April TBR. I think this is going to be a really excellent reading month. I'd love to know what you are reading for Transco April, and if you have any thoughts on any of these books, please leave them down below. And yeah, I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.